Welcome to today's deep dive. We are plunging headfirst into a truly mind-bending piece of literature today.
Oh, it really is. It's totally unique.
Right, because I want you to picture a book that functions less like a traditional story and, well, more like a philosophical puzzle box that you literally hold in your hands.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
It contains two entirely opposing narratives bound together into a single volume. You've got the Harmonic Tomb on one side and the Dissonant Cartography on the other.
And to make the whole thing even more intriguing, the source material tells us these are actually counter-novels.
Counter-novels, yeah.
Written under the anagrammatic pen, names Penix Raven Star and A Penex Star Rave.
Which is just...
I know, it's incredibly clever.
Right.
They even share a glossary at the back, along with these really intense co-director's notes, where the authors actively, and honestly, sometimes fiercely, debate each other.
The structure alone is just a remarkable achievement.
It really is. What we are looking at is a text that presents us with two radically different maps of reality. The first narrative argues with just incredible detail that the universe is a grand, interconnected musical composition where absolutely everything happens for a reason.
And then the second one just tears that to pieces.
Completely shreds it. It argues that reality is a chaotic, indifferent marsh, and we are just desperate creatures inventing patterns to cope with our own grief.
So our mission for this deep dive is to explore both of these maps. And the goal here isn't to, pick a winner between the two.
No, not at all.
It's to understand how these conflicting viewpoints mirror the very ways you try to make sense of your own life when the world throws something completely incomprehensible your way.
Exactly. It's about human nature, really.
Okay, let's unpack this. We start with the first novel, The Harmonic Tomb. And to really get into this, I want you listening to imagine the setting. We're introduced to this man named Castellan Aubric Marre.
The translator.
Right, a translator of dead languages at the University of Sohl. And Marre works deep underground. We're talking subterranean, heavy stone walls in an acoustically dead library room called the Sarcophagus.
It's totally isolated.
Yeah. He has his daily routine, the quiet hum of academic life, until one day, in a specific alcove...
Niche 109.
Niche 109, exactly. He finds an anomalous scroll sealed in thick red wax. And from what the sources tell us, the moment he opens this thing, it defies absolutely everything he knows about language.
It completely shatters his understanding of translation. Because the scroll isn't written in standard linguistic characters at all.
Right.
It is written in a highly sophisticated, incredibly complex musical notation. But instead of standard notes on a staff, it uses geometric figures.
Yeah.
Triangles, interlocking circles, hexagons.
And Marre starts to decode it.
He does. And what he realizes, and this is really the foundational premise of the first half of the book, is that these geometric figures map exact harmonic ratios directly to the human body.
Wait, I need to wrap my head around that for a second. Are we saying that human anatomy is literally a musical chord in this book?
Think of it this way. The scroll dictates that the 3-2 perfect fifth, which is a cornerstone of musical harmony, maps mathematically to the human skeletal system. The 2-1 octave maps to the circulatory system. The 5-4 major third dictates the neural pathways.
Wow.
It's presenting a blueprint of reality, suggesting the universe isn't made of dead matter at all. It is made of intervals, of relationships.
So if I were to somehow pluck my own rib cage like a guitar string, it would harmonize perfectly in a musical fifth with my skull.
In the logic of the Harmonic Tomb, absolutely. Your body is a symphony of biological math.
That is wild.
And Marre is so rattled by this discovery that he reaches out to a skeptical astronomer friend of his, Vildar Koss.
Because Koss looks up, not down.
Exactly. Koss is a man of science, looking outward at the cosmos, not inward at dusty schools. But he comes down into the sarcophagus, takes a look at this bizarre geometric music through his precision ground losses, and makes a terrifyingly beautiful connection.
He sees it in the stars.
He realizes these exact same ratios, the perfect fifths, the major thirds, dictate the pulsing of stars. He's been observing this phenomenon during clear, crisp nights he refers to as the glass hours.
The glass hours.
Yeah. The microstructure of the human bone and the macrostructure of a distant star are perfectly aligned.
The idea that the cosmos and the human body are operating on the exact same sheet music is just, it's stunning, which leads to one of the most haunting phrases translated from the scroll. The body is the instrument, the tomb is the tuning.
Yes.
When the astronomer, Koss, points out that the sarcophagus is an anechoic chamber, completely acoustically dead, everything suddenly clicks. Have you ever been in a truly soundproof room?
I have. It's incredibly disorienting.
It gets so quiet you can hear the blood rushing in your own ears. Your brain practically invents noise just to fill the void.
Right.
The sarcophagus isn't just a quiet room for studying dead languages, it's a tuning chamber. It's a space stripped of all the world's background noise so the body's natural frequencies can finally emerge.
And this leads to the inciting incident in the entire narrative. Marre and Koss, standing in that absolute suffocating silence, simultaneously press their hands flat against the wax and parchment of the scroll.
And then what happens?
When they do this, their bones literally begin to vibrate at those harmonic ratios. The text describes the triangles and hexagons lifting off the page, projecting into dimensions the human mind can barely process.
Oh, wow.
In that moment, they realize they aren't just observing a map of the universe. They are the instruments being played by this cosmic score.
And touching that scroll acts like a tuning fork struck in a quiet room. It broadcasts the signal. It draws others to the cliff where the university sits. The book describes an ensemble of 12 people who are inexplicably pulled there.
Drawn by the vibration.
Exactly. And the backgrounds of these 12 people are fascinating. Let's look at Ellery Kale. She is an ear physician who has spent her entire life studying the inner ear, specifically the cochlea.
Kale's inclusion in the ensemble is crucial because it bridges the mystical with the biological. Through the vibration of the scroll, she realizes the inner ear isn't just a passive microphone receiving sound from the outside world.
It's an active participant.
Yes, it actually operates as a tiny speaker, generating its own tones. In real-world medicine, these are known as otoacoustic emissions. The ear literally sings back to the world. For Kale, this proves the premise the body plays itself.
Then you have someone totally removed from medicine, like Thrent. He's a soldier who lost his hand in battle. He experiences this harmonic reality in a completely tactile way.
He feels it.
Right. He uses his amputated phantom limb to physically feel a massive invisible architecture radiating outward from the scroll. He maps out what he calls a harmonic cathedral.
A building made of sound.
Yeah, he can feel that the nave of this invisible building is a perfect fifth, and the transepts are octaves. He senses a great sarcophagus sitting at the very center of it all.
And that tactile hallucination, or reality, depending on how you view it, connects perfectly to Orvain, another member of the ensemble.
The sculptor.
She is a blind sculptor. Her entire life is about form and texture. When the vibration hits her, she realizes this great central tomb that Thrent feels is constructed of what she calls ideal bone.
Ideal bone.
To her, bone isn't just calcium and marrow. It is a three-dimensional musical score. It's harmony made solid.
If we step back for a second, all of these incredibly vivid, bizarre experiences, the singing ear, the phantom cathedral, the ideal bone, they are all driving toward one massive conclusion.
If you connect this to the bigger picture, all of these experiences culminate in a massive philosophical revelation that Marre translates from the scroll.
What does it say?
It states simply, the composer is the composition. There is no grand, bearded creator in the sky plucking the strings of the universe. The universe is playing itself. It computes its own structure simply by existing.
So everyone is a part of it.
Every single person, every bone, every star, every blade of grass is a mathematically necessary note in this cosmic chord.
Which means in a universe that's perfectly tuned, nothing is an accident.
Nothing at all. And in this perfectly harmonious framework, the ultimate terror of human existence, death, is completely redefined.
It has to be, right?
Death is not an ending. The music doesn't stop. It is simply defined in the glossary as a key change, a necessary shift in the melody to keep the grand symphony moving forward.
A key change. It's incredibly comforting, honestly. The idea that losing someone or facing your own mortality is just a shift in the cosmic music. But
here comes the pivot.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because you're reading this, you're lulled into this beautiful, perfect harmony, and then the book sharply pivots. You physically turn the page to the second half, the Dissonant Cartography.
And we meet our second author.
Dressed Solaric. He is a cartographer, a map maker, and he completely, furiously, with every fiber of his being, rejects this entire harmonic thesis.
Solaric approaches reality not as a musician searching for a perfect melody, but as a guy whose boots are covered in mud, looking at the messy, chaotic terrain of actual life.
Yeah.
The source material gives us a vital piece of backstory for him. He comes from a city called Caelg. Now, Caelg is fascinating because, historically speaking, it shouldn't exist.
It's a mistake.
Hundreds of years prior, a lazy surveyor simply made the city up. He drew a dot on a map just to get paid by the crown for logging a landmark.
It's like those fake towns cartographers sometimes put on maps as copyright traps, right?
Exactly.
Or following your GPS blindly until you drive your car directly into a lake because the digital map said there was a road. Only in the case of Kelg, because the dot was on the official map, people assumed it was real.
Right.
They packed up their wagons, traveled out to this miserable, muddy marsh, and actually built the city. They suffered and died in the mud, all because ink was placed on paper.
That history defines Solaric's entire worldview. The map generated the reality. And Solaric uses the history of his home count to level a devastating argument against Marre and the ensemble in the first half of the book.
He calls them out.
He says that is exactly what they're doing in the Sarcophagus. Their map, this ancient geometric scroll, is generating the reality they're experiencing. Koss, the astronomer, spent months designing his telescope lenses to find those specific harmonic ratios.
And of course he found them.
Solaric argues that of course he found them. When you build an instrument specifically to find a pattern, you will find that pattern. It is the ultimate cosmic case of confirmation bias. The map ate the territory.
But Solaric isn't just a grumpy skeptic trying to ruin everyone's good time. There is a deep, agonizing, emotional core driving his argument, which makes the second half of this book so heartbreaking.
He's not detached at all.
No, he isn't arguing from a place of detached academic logic. He's arguing from a place of profound grief. Solaric's 7-year-old daughter, Len, died of a fever.
That tragedy is the lens through which he views the universe. Imagine Solaric standing by his daughter's grave as it fills with dark, muddy marsh water. The idea that her agonizing death is just a key change or a musical rest in some grand, uncaring cosmic symphony is entirely monstrous to him.
It's insulting.
To call her death a necessary note in a beautiful chord is an insult to her memory. For Solaric, death is not a transition into a new melody. It is a brick wall. It is an absolute, irredeemable silence.
He argues that if the universe is this perfect harmony where there are no wrong notes, where even the death of a child is part of the plan, then nothing has stakes.
Right.
Everything is just the automatic, robotic expression of a predetermined score. If there's no such thing as a wrong note, then there's no such thing as meaning.
Take it a step further. Solaric argues that a universe without wrongness, a universe that is incapable of making a mistake, is just a machine.
A machine.
It might be a beautiful, highly sophisticated machine, but it is still cold metal and gears. And a machine cannot break in a tragic sense. It can only malfunction. Solaric looks at human life and says, we are not machines. Life is a living, breathing, bleeding thing, and living things break. They suffer.
They don't just malfunction.
He aggressively prefers the messy, chaotic reality of a botch. He actually uses the imagery of a grand piano tumbling down a flight of stairs.
What an image.
Over a perfectly tuned, uncaring cosmic organ playing itself in the dark.
So, if Solaric hates this music theory so much, how does he explain away all the physical evidence the astronomer and the ensemble found? Does he just say they are lying?
He doesn't say they are lying. He says they are ignoring the data that doesn't fit the song. Solaric acts as a counter-cartographer. He maps out specific anomalies. He calls them refusals. These are pieces of hard evidence that actively refuse to fit the cosmic score.
Like what?
First, he travels out into the marsh near his home and records something called the moan. It is an orphan acoustic frequency that fits absolutely no musical scale, no perfect fifth, no octave. It is just raw, ugly noise.
He also points to the human body itself, right? The very thing the first book claimed was perfectly mathematically tuned.
Yes. The textbooks Marre and the ensemble rely on depict the human skeleton as perfectly symmetrical. Solaric points out the reality of the asymmetric skeleton. The human body isn't perfectly balanced. Think about how we actually walk.
It's basically controlled falling. You throw your weight forward and catch yourself over and over again. Managed catastrophe. Like when you trip on an uneven sidewalk and your arms flail wildly to keep your teeth from hitting the pavement.
Exactly.
There is no perfect harmony in that. It's just survival in the moment.
Managed catastrophe is the perfect term for it, but the most damning piece of evidence Solaric finds isn't in the marsh or the human gate. It is hidden in Vildar Koss's own discarded observatory notes.
The astronomer!
Koss secretly found a star in the Lyre constellation that flat out refused to pulse in harmony with the others. It didn't follow the math. It just emitted a flat, steady, unwavering light.
And what did the brilliant astronomer do?
He threw the notes away. He buried the data because it ruined his beautiful, elegant theory. Solaric sees this non-pulsing star as absolute proof that the universe has gaps. Real, unmusical, terrifying wholes.
Which brings us to a part of the book I absolutely love, because these two incredibly compelling, entirely opposed views don't just exist in isolation, they actually collide on the page.
They do.
Solaric, fueled by his grief and his anomalous map, travels to a medical conference in a city called Felmdare. He tracks down Elric Hale, the ear physician from the ensemble, the woman who heard her own ear singing the song of the universe.
What's fascinating here is how Solaric challenges her. He doesn't use philosophy. He uses her own medical expertise against her. He compares the entire transcendent experience the ensemble had in the sarcophagus to tinnitus.
Tinnitus, just a ringing in the ears.
But think about what tinnitus actually is. It is the ear creating its own internal noise, and the brain being so desperate for input that it believes the noise is a real external sound.
Wow.
Solaric looks at this brilliant doctor and asks her how she knows the scroll, the geometric vibrations, the grand cosmic music wasn't just a collective self-generated hallucination, a psychological tinnitus brought on by sensory deprivation in that underground room.
He basically calls her entire spiritual awakening a neurological glitch.
Yeah, he does.
And Carol's response is just an absolute mic drop. She doesn't yell at him. She doesn't pull out charts and graphs to prove the math. She looks at him and calmly admits she doesn't know.
She owns it.
She tells Solaric she has no idea if the scroll was an objectively real cosmic artifact or a hallucination. But she says it doesn't matter.
It is a brilliant pivot away from objective truth into lived pragmatism. She argues that the profound change in her perspective was undeniably real. Because of that experience in the sarcophagus, she learned to truly listen to her own life.
Yeah.
She learned to hear the history of her own body encoded in her bones, the stress fractures, the healed wounds, the rhythm of her breath. Something 30 years of rigorous medical training never taught her.
It goes back to the map analogy. A map doesn't have to be a perfect one-to-one objective representation of the territory to be useful.
Right.
If the map gets you out of the woods, if it helps you navigate a dark period in your life, then the map has profound value, even if it's slightly wrong.
And this is where the metatext of the book, the shared glossary, and those combative co-directors' notes at the very end really elevates the whole project.
The notes are so good.
They reveal the structural genius of the work. The authors, Penix Ravenstar and Apenex Star Rave, deliberately made these two narratives irreconcilable. You cannot synthesize them into one neat worldview.
They refuse to fit together.
They exist in counterpoint, actively grinding against each other to produce friction in the mind of the reader. And the notes suggest something deeply profound about human nature. Solaric and Marre are essentially the same person.
Oh, that's powerful.
They are both just tiny consciousnesses trying to map a reality that vastly exceeds the capacity of their instruments.
They are separated only by the experience of profound loss. If Marre had lost a child, he might have written the Dissonant Cartography.
Exactly the point the text is making. Len, the 7-year-old girl who died of a fever, is the structural hole in the harmonic thesis. She is the anomaly the math cannot solve. She is the one thing the beautiful cosmic music cannot account for. The harmonic thesis can only survive as a perfect theory by not looking directly at the agonizing death of an innocent child. Grief is the ultimate blind spot in Marre's perfect map of the stars.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Why should you care about a fake cartographer and a fake translator arguing over a magical scroll?
It's a fair question.
Because the text is asking you to reflect on how you map your own life. When you are faced with chaos or pain or the sheer randomness of a Tuesday that goes completely off the rails, what do you do?
Yeah, how do you handle it?
Do you look for the hidden harmony? Do you try to find the bigger reason and trust that even your pain is a necessary note in a cosmic symphony like Marre? Or do you accept the messy, indifferent, unresolvable dissonance of reality, like Solaric, and refuse to put a pretty bow on a tragedy?
This raises an important question, and the text leaves us with a final, lingering thought that transcends both arguments. At the very end of his Dissonant Cartography, Solaric sits alone in his workshop, looking out over a foul-smelling canal in his muddy city. He refuses the harmonic music to his core. But as he sits there, he realizes that beneath the music, and beneath his own suffocating grief, there is a fundamental truth that both sides must ultimately accept.
And that is?
And that truth is vibration.
Vibrates?
Everything in the universe, from the molten core of the planet, to the wet earth of the marsh, to the distant pulsing stars, to the very bones inside your body right now, is vibrating with the brute fact of existence.
The universe trembles.
That vibration doesn't care if we dress it up as a beautiful cosmic symphony, And it doesn't care if we reject it as an indifferent muddy marsh. It just vibrates. It is the raw material of reality, long before we ever start drawing our maps or composing our songs.
It's just there.
And perhaps the challenge for you today, next time you feel overwhelmed by the noise of the world, is to simply sit with that vibration, to feel the hum of your own existence for a moment before you rush to put a map over it.